In the early morning of February 28, 2026, the residents of Tehran, the capital of Iran, were awakened by a sound they had never heard before. It wasn't fireworks, it wasn't a siren test. It was the sound of one of the largest military operations of the 21st century being carried out above their heads. Within minutes, 200 aircraft tore through the Iranian sky and more than 500 targets were hit simultaneously across the entire territory. Buildings that had stood for decades turned to rubble in seconds. The smoke was still rising when the world began to understand what had just happened. The most powerful man in Iran, the man who ruled this country for 37 years, who built a network of influence that spread from Lebanon to Yemen, who challenged the United States, Israel, and the Western world for decades. He was dead. And here's the detail that most news outlets aren't getting right. Iran was negotiating peace at that time.
Now at 2:13, the United States and Iran held this Thursday another round of negotiations about that Iranian nuclear program. Eliseo Caetano will join us live straight from Miami. Eliseo, but it seems that the United States has already decided on some kind of attack against Iran. Is that right?
2 days before the attacks, a mediator publicly stated that an agreement was within reach, and 2 days later, the regime lost everything. That wasn't an accident. Iran dug its own grave, and this video will explain how. But first, there's a question no one is really answering. After all, how did the United States know exactly where Khamenei was, since he spent years hiding in secret underground bunkers, locations that very few people knew about, with elite security guards? And even so, it all ended with a single strike at the right place at the right time. What happened behind the scenes of this operation is one of the most extraordinary stories in modern military history. And that's exactly what you're going to find out in this video. To understand how Iran got to this point, you need to answer a question that few people ask. Why now? Why not 5 years earlier when Iran was already a threat? What changed? The answer lies in just one number. Look, Iran is not a small country. It's 92 million people, an ancient civilization, and a regime that since 1979 has spent decades building a network of influence throughout the Middle East. They funded Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, and dozens of armed groups in Iraq. But something even more dangerous existed. In mid-2025, the UN nuclear agency confirmed that Iran had accumulated enough radioactive material to build 9 atomic bombs. 9. The regime thought this was power, thought it was protection, but it was exactly this program that put Iran in the crosshairs. For Israel and for the United States, that number was unacceptable. And in June of 2025, Israel launched the largest air offensive in its history against Iran. But unlike a regular bombing, this operation had a feature the world had never seen before. Months before the attacks, agents from Mossad, Israel's secret service, had already been secretly placed inside Iran itself. These agents used drones to destroy the Iranian air defense systems from the inside out. It's as if someone had entered your house, disabled the alarm, and only then told those outside that the door was open. The United States came in next with B-2 Spirit bombers planes that are almost undetectable by radar, carrying the largest non-nuclear bombs ever made. These bombs were made to penetrate dozens of meters of rock and concrete before exploding, and they were used against nuclear facilities buried 80 to 90 meters inside the Iranian mountains. The result was significant but not decisive. The nuclear program had been shaken but not destroyed, and it was here that Iran made the mistake that would define this story. Instead of negotiating, they chose to cancel all cooperation with international inspectors. They closed the doors and continued building in secret. Iran was digging its own grave and didn't realize it. In February 2026, rounds of negotiations took place between the United States and Iran, with the Arab country of Oman acting as an intermediary. On February 26, this intermediary publicly declared that a peace agreement was within reach. The world breathed a sigh of relief, but 2 days later, the UN nuclear agency discovered something that changed everything. Iran had hidden highly dangerous nuclear material in a secret base that wasn't on any official map. It had never been declared and had survived all previous attacks intact. While sitting at the negotiating table, Iran continued building in secret. And now tell me, if you found out that someone was deceiving you right in your own home while pretending to negotiate in good faith, would you still try for peace or would you react? Tell me in the comments. That's when Iran signed its own death warrant. The next morning, the attacks began. Now we return to the central question: how did the United States and Israel know exactly where Khamenei was? Khamenei lived in extreme fear for his safety. For months, there had been information circulating that he was hiding in a secret underground shelter. He rarely appeared in public, but in the early hours of February 28th, he was at work in his office at the Beit Harbari complex, the official residence and government center of the supreme leader in the heart of Tehran. The CIA tracked his movements precisely, identified his exact location, and transmitted this information in real time to the Israeli Air Forces. The Israeli Army spokesperson later confirmed this. There was joint planning between the two countries over the previous months. When the window of opportunity appeared, the decision was made immediately.
After eliminating the heads of the Iranian terror regime in the initial attack operation, we are now systematically eliminating the core of its infrastructure and striking deep into the regime.
The attack destroyed the complex, and Khamenei did not survive, but he was not the only victim. The Israeli army claimed to have eliminated about 40 high-ranking Iranian officials in a matter of minutes, including the commander-in-chief of the Revolutionary Guard, the Minister of Defense, and the highest-ranking general of the Iranian army. The top leadership of the regime had been eliminated in a single operation. At first, the Iranian government denied everything. The foreign minister appeared on television claiming that Khamenei was alive and safe, but hours later there was no way to deny it anymore. At that moment, the world had only one question in mind: is this going to turn into a world war? The answer came quickly, and it was surprising. The Iranian response didn't take long. Iran fired hundreds of missiles and drones at Israel and at American military bases in 6 countries in the region. Abu Dhabi airport was hit, Dubai's was damaged, the American base in Qatar was attacked, and 3 American soldiers died. And then came the hardest blow to the entire world's economy.
Okay, all right.
The Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the main military branch of the regime, sent a radio message to ships in the Persian Gulf. No vessel was allowed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow waterway between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula, and about 1/5 of all the oil traded in the world passes through there. In less than 24 hours, the number of oil tankers in the region was cut in half. The price of a barrel went up immediately, and experts warned, if the blockade lasted, the impact would be felt all over the world, at gas stations and supermarkets, on energy bills. But here's something that reveals the magnitude of the mistake Iran made. The network of allies that Iran had built over decades and that was supposed to protect it remained silent. Hezbollah condemned the attacks but did not enter combat. Hamas made statements of protest but did not fire a single rocket. The armed groups in Iraq remained quiet. Iran had spent decades and billions of dollars building this network for exactly this moment, and when it needed it most, there was no one. And now we come to the question everyone is asking: what happens to Iran without Khamenei? Well, it's a question that doesn't have a simple answer, because Iran without Khamenei isn't like a company changing its president. It's an entire country without the figure who has defined every political, military, and religious decision for the past 37 years. But there are some things that are already clear. A provisional council has taken control while the country chooses its next leader. The names being mentioned are the grandson of the founder of the revolution, a former Speaker of Parliament, and Khamenei's own son. But the most revealing fact is not any of those names. In prediction markets, platforms where people bet real money on what will happen in the world, the most likely option, reaching 49% is not any candidate. It's the end of the position of Supreme Leader itself. Almost half of the analysts believe that Iran could come out of this crisis as a completely different country. But there is a force that will decide the future of the country more than any religious or political leader: the Revolutionary Guard. It was not created to defend the country from external enemies. It was created precisely to defend the revolution from anyone who might question it from within. With 190,000 soldiers and a network of militias spread throughout Iranian society, it is the pillar that sustains power. And as an American analyst put it directly, eliminating Khamenei is not the same as eliminating the regime. The Revolutionary Guard is the regime. What is likely to emerge from the chaos will not be a democracy, but it also won't be the same religious government as before. It will be something more military, more focused on Iranian nationalism, and possibly harder to predict. The Iranian nuclear program has been shaken but not destroyed. The knowledge to build a bomb cannot be destroyed with bombs. A new government could resume this path with even fewer restrictions than before. And the path of diplomacy was closed in the most abrupt way possible, 2 days after a mediator said that peace was within reach. In the end, what brought down the most powerful regime in the Middle East was not just the strength of the United States or the intelligence of Israel. It was the hole that Iran itself dug, with its secrets, with its betrayal during the negotiations, with its nuclear program hidden in the mountains. And it was sealed by an image that will go down in history. When Iranian state television confirmed Khamenei's death, a presenter cried live in front of the cameras, a man who spent his entire life within a system that demands absolute loyalty to the regime.
His Eminence Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Hosseini Khamenei, on the path of upholding the exaltation of the sacred sanctuary of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Crying on national television as he confirmed that this regime had lost its leader. Those tears said what no official statement could ever say. If you want to keep up with what comes next, who will take power, whether the nuclear program will continue, and what this means for the rest of the world, subscribe to the channel. This story is far from over.